Hello, my name is Jacek Wada and this is a presentation showing the path I take with some of my guests, showing them Lublin during their stay at my place through the Airbnb system. Here, where the yellow dot is, we start our journey. This is the place of our accommodation. Here it shows where the historically oldest part of the city is. The confluence of the manor, the castle hill, the oldest settlement. Lublin is generally located in the valley of several rivers, at the confluence of rivers. Here again, the yellow dot marks the castle, the oldest location. You can see numerous ravines that cut through Lublin, because Lublin is geologically characterized by being on a limestone bedrock, which is easily washed away and covered with clays, which also are relatively easy to wash away. This causes Lublin to have many hills and valleys. We are constantly going up or down these valleys. The first point of our journey is the Naruski market, the oldest place where for hundreds of years in Lublin you could buy all sorts of goods, and now mainly agricultural, that is, mainly fruits and vegetables. If you stay with me longer, it's worth shopping here. The next place is the viewpoint at the church dedicated to Saint Michael. This is what the place looked like half a century ago. Here is a photo by a well-known Lublin photographer showing the panorama of Lublin, the future of the city in socialism. This is already the area of the Jewish city. Here we see roughly the boundary of the ghetto during the war period. And this is the center of this area. We are right in it, and here again we marked with the yellow dot the water intake point, the well. Because this district did not have waterworks before the war, and the Nazis, when demolishing this district, left the well because everyone needs water. Even during the construction of the new Nazi district, water was needed, so they left the well, and it remained as a symbol of this destroyed city. Here was the well in this district. This is what Seroka Street looked like. Here we see the central square at the confluence with Ruska Street. The next place is to show the meeting point of three cultures, the confluence of three cultures. Namely, we have here an Orthodox church, a Catholic church, an Orthodox church, a Catholic church and a synagogue, which no longer exists. And in this district, these three churches symbolically mark the religious and social complexity of this city. We see a photo of this pre-war district with this synagogue, and this is the last photo of the synagogue. Just before the demolition of this building during, even right after the war. Seroka Street, the center of the Jewish district in 1940-1941 and right after the demolitions. I think these are photos right after the war. This caused a wide discussion on how to rebuild, how to transform this area in this situation. The first part was rebuilt in 1954 and it was a successful reconstruction. The castle square was built, which was the center of such a great event in 1954. And it became a place for numerous concerts, some social events. It still happens to this day. And now there is a discussion about what next in relation to this road that runs through the center of this district. The next place is a shopping center on the other side of the road. By this shopping center flows a river, which flows into this large Bystitsa river. On the wall of the wall, paintings of the former Jewish district were painted based on photos that were taken before the war. Next, we visit the Lublin Castle. This is the current appearance of the castle. There are only two historical objects, namely the chapel and the tower. This is what the castle looked like in its heyday, during the Jagiellonian dynasty. In 1830, a prison was built on the ruins. This prison gate symbolizes swallowing, devouring people, and these axes are a symbol of punishment. And many people lost their health there, and in the early days of the people's power and also under the Nazis, their lives. At the beginning of the 20th century, frescoes painted on the orders of King Vladislav Jagiello were rediscovered. This is the most valuable monument in Lublin. A symbol of this meeting of cultures, because it stylistically combines features of Western and Eastern frescoes. And it is also probably the oldest image of a Polish ruler, painted during his lifetime. Here we have Vladislav Jagiello. The next place is this castle square. This is how Seroka Street ran, and here, where Tolu is now, was the house of the Seer of Lublin. Lublin was the center of such a Jewish Hasidic movement, and its very important figure was in Lublin at the beginning of the 19th century, and even his grave fortunately survived. This square is also called the Eye of the Seer precisely because it resembles an eye, and sometimes there are various events using this shape. Next, we pass through the Grodzka Gate, which serves as a center of knowledge about various historical events in the city, the entire history of Lublin, but largely about the history of the Jewish district. If you want to know more, visit this place. On the way, we pass the sculpture of the Magician of Lublin. It is connected to the novel written by Isaac Bashevis Singer about this fictional character. And he received the Nobel Prize for this novel. But perhaps this novel is the reason why the new circus, community, foundation, and many cultural events in the field of the new circus are thriving in Lublin. In the Old Town, there are periodic exhibitions and art installations, especially at the beginning of June. That's when I most recommend visiting Lublin to see it. And this is the most famous creator, Yaroslav Koziara. Further on, we see the Crown Tribunal, which for 200 years was one of the two most important courts in the country. Unfortunately, it was often considered a corrupt court, and the symbol of this is the legend of the Devil's Paw, that is, a widow who was unjustly judged by this court, said that even devils would judge better than these judges. And at night, a carriage arrived. The devils interrogated, executed, and pronounced the verdict and nailed such a devil's paw to the desk, to the table. And here are such tentacles that grow from this tribunal also during the Lublin Legends Festival. Litovsky Square got its name during the stationing of Lithuanians during the Sejm, which established the Polish-Lithuanian Union, or the First Republic. Here, during the partitions, stood a great Orthodox church, which was demolished as a symbol of foreign power over the city. We now reach the church, which was erected by Jagiello as a votive offering to God for the victory at Grunwald, which is considered the greatest historical Polish military victory. And next to it is the Juliusz Ostowa Theatre, which is the last cultural building to undergo a major renovation and will take on a new form. Another cultural center. I show it because many different events happen there, and these are also interesting, the most interesting structures. And another such building. The largest is the Center for the Meeting of Cultures, the largest regional cultural institution. There are festivals here. It's also worth going to the 4th and 5th floors. There is a beautiful panorama of the city. Interestingly, inside this building, we find concrete and such red brick facades. There are many of them, and that's because Lublin had many brick factories. They are a symbol of the city. Each of these brickyards had its own mark. Another reason is that this building was rebuilt with European Union funds in 2014. It initially stood for 40 years. And this is a part of the building that was constructed over those 40 years, and this inaccuracy is deliberately left as a memento of that period. Well, the construction of this great theatre over 40 years became a symbol of the economy of real socialism and the inefficiency of the system. And of course, according to the authors, it was supposed to be a symbol of the strength of this system, but the ambition was greater than the capabilities of the authorities, and it became a symbol of the system's lack of strength. We reach the campus of the largest university. A moment here, and we return through the Saxon Garden, Saxon Park, the most important city park. Here is an interesting fact. A monument at 4 o'clock in the morning. It currently stands here. The monument is ugly, but the phenomenon itself is cool. And it's worth watching these 2 lectures dedicated to the phenomenon of the 4th hour in culture. The last place is Wieniawska Street. Here is the City Hall, and I work here. I really like the preservation by the architects of this tree that stood here and was saved in the design of the new skyscraper. That's the end. Thank you for your attention and see you in Lublin.